ただいまより南山大学主催 NU-COIL 総括シンポジウ
So
ムを
now we would like to start with the 2022 NU-COIL International Symposium. I am Takakazu Yamagishi, Director of the Center for International Affairs, and I will be moderating this symposium. Now, before we start, we have some housekeeping calls.
同時通訳機能をお使いいただけます。
We do have simultaneous interpretation available. So we have sent you a message before starting this symposium, so please have a look at that. This session will also be recorded and it will be streamed online on demand at a later date. Please refrain from any recording of any sound or images. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A box to put in your questions. Please enter also your name and where you are from. We will try and respond as soon as much as possible. First, we have an opening address from President Robert Kisala of Nanzan University. So I'm Robert Kisala, President of Nanzan University. Thank you for joining us at our NU-COIL International Symposium. So, since fiscal year 2018, Nanzan University was adopted for MEXT's Project for Strengthening Global Competitiveness of Universities for USA, and has aspired to develop global talents who can work internationally and internationalize the university through our NU-COIL program, a university-wide initiative in Nanzan University. Today, we welcome our US partners universities who have supported us to develop and promote our project, and I'm happy to hold this symposium with all of you here today. We are also honored to have our partner companies, government agencies, and organizations who have offered practical learning opportunities throughout this project. Thank you for coming to our symposium. It is because of all of you here from a wide range of arenas that made it possible for us to successfully reach our fifth and final year of this program. Thank you for all of your support. Now, at the break of 2020, the world was struck with COVID, and students could not study abroad. They couldn't even come to campus and had to take classes online. We, together with the students, had to endure a time of patience. And at the same time, we also found new possibilities in IT technologies and online classes, which led to new initiatives which would have never taken place without COVID. It gave me also an opportunity to start COIL type classes. From there, for 3 years, we had worked with the university lecturers and staff. We have worked with the interest of and about the Japanese cultures, about the interest we have in the United States, and we looked at the reflections from these students, and we saw that some of these lectures were very motivating for some of our students. Now, Nanzan University is a Christian university and has Humanist Dignitati for human dignity as the educational motto we have for our students. As we become more globalized, the world will need more people who can understand different cultures and use their expertise to solve numerous problems that transcend national borders. We hope that many of the students who have joined our program from Japan and the United States will contribute to the peace and prosperity of the world. And Nanzan University will continue to develop the program to do so. Today, to sum up the 5 years, we will review the project with our partner universities and discuss our future possibilities. We will also have students who participated in the program to present their achievements. I hope this symposium inspires us to think about how we can promote student exchange between the United States and Japan, develop global talent that can become a bridge between the two regions, and so that this project can contribute to promoting world peace that ensures human dignity. I hope that this becomes an opportunity for us to think about many things. Thank you for your attention.
Kisala 先生、ありがとうございます。それでは、
Thank you, Professor Kisala. And now, from our Vice President for Global Affairs, Masahiro Hoshino, we would like to report our 5-year achievements. Over to you, Professor Hoshino. I am Hoshino, Vice President for Global Affairs at Nanzan University. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I would like to report about our achievements. Well, here at Nanzan University, we have the academic ethos of Hominis Dignitati for human dignity. And in 2007, we came up with the grand design for our 20-year vision. And based on this, we came up with the Nanzan University Internationalizing Vision in 2015. And we have the 3 keywords shown on the screen. And on top of that, we have been having a track record of international exchange with US. And that is why we decided to make this as a key driver for our 5-year operation. And we want to make sure that the entire local community would be used as the place for learning and to form a platform. And we wanted our students to recognize the importance of the US-Japan relationship. And that is why we came up with a tailor-made approach, because we thought this is going to be effective. And that is why we have been emphasizing the academic program to be grassrooted to the community. And as you can see, the 8 partner universities here on the left side, each of these areas are having a strong relationship, both economically and culturally, between Aichi. And the program that we will be elaborating now is that, while through repetition, we hope and we believe that this will make our students to be bridging not just only the academic, but private and public sectors as well. And that is why we came up with this platform. And now moving on to the COIL 2 project, and that's what I would like to report. In this project, we have multiculturalism, interdisciplinary, international skills, and problem detection and solving. We want our students to be equipped with these capabilities, and that is why we have the career-oriented interactive leadership. And we have come up with this multi-layered program to make use of this COIL education. So when we say COIL 2, this is the acronym of the career-oriented interactive leadership, as well as the collaborative online international learning. And this is a unique way that we at Nanzan call. And the program at this university includes short-term, long-term international study abroad, as well as the COIL studies. And through the relationship and partnership we have with the public and private, and through the internship programs we have in the US, we have been trying to foster the global human resources. So we have the multiculturalism basic COIL, where we try to make further interaction so that each student will be able to feel more about each other in a closer way. And in 5 years, we have 45 courses with the partner universities, 50 courses with other universities, altogether 95 courses available for the basic COIL. Moving on to the academic COIL, where we try to foster interdisciplinary globalism, we have been offering courses where students will be able to discuss various issues globally. And of course, with the COIL, especially students that have been joining the COIL before studying abroad have been finding that this has been really helpful, and they have also been able to make friends before they even went abroad. That's the kind of environment we have been able to create. 39 courses with partner universities, 27 courses with non-partners, altogether 66 courses have been achieved in the past 5 years. PBL COIL, where we try to foster capabilities of a problem-solving method, has been achieved in a way to offer discussions on hands-on classes. And that means by linking it with the long-term study abroad and internship programs, we have been able to foster the global career capabilities of the students. 13 courses with partner universities, 4 courses with others, altogether 17 courses have been achieved in the past 5 years. And out of the 5-year program, due to the COVID pandemic, we had some limitations and restrictions for the short-term and long-term study abroad. So we were not able to fulfill all the programs for the students. And that means we will continuously operate the program to further check the achievements here. This is about the international exchange activities that we have had with 8 partner universities that we have picked up here. The COIL students with 8 partner universities have reached over 1,000 in the past 5 years. And in fact, this was our target, and will be able to do this. And in academic year 2020, due to the pandemic spread, there were some cases that we were not able to do the matchmaking of the teachers, but thanks to the 1-year track record that we made in academic 2020, in academic year 2021, we were able to apply the lessons and have more proactive international exchanges. For student mobility, both for sending and welcoming students in academic years 2020 and 2021, due to the pandemic, we had a lot of constraints for actual study abroad, but we put in practice the online studies. And with this, in terms of the target figures for both receiving and sending students, we will be able to achieve this, we believe. And that means, thanks to these 5-year achievement, we are seeing a drastic increase of students participating in long-term study abroad. And at the same time, we have been seeing some increase in the demand. And we have the NU-COIL short-term study abroad program with North Georgia University. And this is a short-term program linking with the basic COIL. And in this program, we have the pre-advanced COIL classes, and with a 2-week actual on-site study, we came up with projects where students will make videos. And at the same time, we had students to provide support in Japanese, and also students visiting Japanese companies based in the US. And through these interactions, Nanzan university students were able to deepen their understanding, not just only for the US culture, but also get to learn about the Japanese cultures themselves, as well as the Japanese businesses. And through these studies, before study abroad and after study abroad, we have found out that students have been able to enhance their language skills. And we believe that this can be rolled out not only to US, but we have decided to also expand the COIL studies to other regions and countries. And for short-term study abroad welcoming students, we have come up with a scheme with North Georgia University. And in 2019, we were able to have 10 students from North Georgia University to come to Nanzan, and they joined the summer program starting in June. And after academic year 2020, we weren't able to have actual receiving and sending of students, but thanks to the strong relationship that the teachers and the professors have formed, we achieved a 6-week COIL-based study. And moving to the long-term study abroad model linked with academic COIL, let me elaborate more. And in this model, before study abroad, we have the students to go through the academic COIL classes, and on top of the dedicated subjects that they have to take, we make sure to put emphasis on having connections and touch points with the actual society. Students will be asked to join an internship program during their study abroad, and after coming back, they will have to take a class for International Public-Private Partnership, PBL. And we would like to take this opportunity to thank our companies, partner companies, as shown on the slide. And through exchange of opinions, we have had our students to have deeper understanding on businesses both in Japan and US. We believe that this also helps them to grow their career development. These pictures are from students joining internship programs during their long-term study abroad. Left side shows our student having an interview with Chunichi Shimbun newspaper, New York bureau. And we also had not just only Nanzan University students, but US students learning Japanese to join the program. On the left side here, you can find US students studying abroad here in Nanzan to find out how to make Japanese confectionaries, and they also visited the Aichi Prefecture government office.
So next, industry, government, and academia worked together to offer a tailor-made educational program to study local issues. The international PBL with industry, government, and academia collaborations. Nanzan students and overseas students worked together in groups for about 8 weeks to study issues in business or government administrations given by partner companies, government agencies, and organizations. At the end of the course, students gave presentations and proposed their solutions to the problem givers. This course was not limited to industry, government, academia collaborations within Japan, and it also included international collaborations involving overseas universities. This was really the first initiative for that, and the course is available to all students and allows students from various fields, areas, and countries to work on a problem presented from the local community, where they can utilize their field of expertise, come up with some innovative ideas, and develop their entrepreneurship. In the international PBL with industry, government, academia collaboration that was established in 2019, thanks to the cooperation of multiple partner companies and government agencies, 5 courses have been offered every year since academic year 2021, allowing over 400 students to participate from Japan and United States. You can see the project theme shown here in the slide. It's about cross-cultural understanding, diversity, social inclusion, SDGs, and other social challenges, and attracting inbound travelers and proposals for future vehicles. So many different topics. Our project aims to develop a program that assures quality. We focused on an NU-COIL rubric that evaluates multicultural skills, interdisciplinary global skills, and problem detection and resolution skills, which has been utilized since the beginning of the project. Last year, when COVID started to settle down, we invited external experts in quality assurance and held a face-to-face SDFD lecture to compare to verify the adequacy of the rubric's evaluation criteria against the learning achieved by the students. The meeting brought together instructors utilizing the rubric, which led to objectively evaluating learning outcomes and issues, and to the reorganization of the rubric so that it aims to improve the educational content. The rubric is available on the NU-COIL website. Now, next is on expanding student exchange outside the syllabus using online means under COVID. In addition, we introduced a language buddy system as a device to motivate overseas students who take our programs online to learn. Now that face-to-face meetings have resumed, the platform has grown to include 180 Japanese students and 150 students. So there are various backgrounds, and they were able to go through into a platform where we could do various discussions. Now, this platform has developed a way to issue a certificate of completion to students who meet certain requirements. The name COIL Olympic, which was made in sync with the Tokyo Olympics, helped increase publicity for students from partner schools and helped to encourage participation. So student TAs supported the sustainable management system. Many has participated in this project in many ways and have improved their skills to communicate, coordinate, and show leadership. We believe their activities successfully will demonstrate how many of us have acquired the skills that are unforgivable as evidence of the global human resources. And also, we had introduced the language buddy system as a device to motivate overseas students who take our programs online to learn. Now that face-to-face meetings have resumed, the platform has grown to include 180 Japanese students and 150 overseas students. By expanding opportunities for students to contact online, it helped partner universities to stay interested and motivated towards studying abroad for the longer term. The positive cycle between online exchange and studying abroad also helped students to want to study abroad, contributing to more students joining the exchange programs. Next, I would like to report on the external ripple effects of the project. Now, the project aims to expand the university's efforts not only to relationships with the US, but also to other universities in Japan. And we wanted to extend beyond the US to other countries around the world, with NU at its forefront to the world. So under the leadership of the President Kisala, the university president himself implemented COIL type education on religious theory with a US university, and furthermore, Mr. Kisala had on his efforts at the university-wide FD meeting. As a result, this project has made a significant contribution to the internationalization of teaching and learning. The actual operation of this project is done by the NU-COIL, who has matched the education systems between Nanzan and other university partners, as well as expanded the support structure for faculty members who are newly introducing COIL-type education. As a result, the number of faculty members who have implemented COIL-type education has exceeded 50, leading to more active academic exchange and information exchange among faculty members with overseas universities. Also, students involved in this project has led the planning, operation, and facilitation to increase international education and exchange initiatives. We consider this as evidence of our students acquiring the capabilities required as global talent. So for deployment to other universities, there has been symposium, journals, and other reports listed on our website to provide know-how. We also had open classes in international PBL on industry, government, academia collaborations led subjects. As a result, we have received many inquiries and requests from Open Exchange and also from other universities. Also, the COIL type classes have helped us to collaborate with United States universities jointly with other universities in Aichi Prefecture. So this year, we opened our classes even further so that graduates and students from other universities could also participate in our international exchange projects utilizing COIL. So in this project, Future Wheelchair, we had many participants, including Nanzan students, overseas students, also participating from online, and other university students from schools of engineering and mechanical engineering. We also received advice and feedback from external lecturers from companies and organizations, making it a very fruitful learning opportunity. This project was possible because of the network of all people and organizations from our partner universities in the US and supporting companies and the know-how developed through the PBL-COIL. We will continue to promote tailor-made international education project rooted in the local community and open doors to other university students to bring positive impact throughout Japan and its education. This slide lists all the COIL type class collaborations that we had with universities other than our 8 partners. In the past 5 years, we were able to develop COIL type classes with universities other than the 8 US partner universities towards our goal to achieve the NU-4 or Nippon Universal, which aims to connect Japan and the rest of the world. So here we have some future prospects. So this project not only promotes student exchange through COIL, but also develops an education and exchange model in cooperation with industry and government. It has contributed to the development of global human resources who can contribute to solving soil issues, this is COIL 2, and to spread know-how to other universities. The NU-COIL office has made this happen, and it will continue its function even after the grant period ends. We aim to become a global center for tailor-made educational programs with roots in the local community by further developing and spreading the NU-COIL educational collaboration model formed through this project. This project has deepened mutual trust through active exchanges of opinions and operating the programs together with our US partner universities through the NU-COIL Collaboration Council meetings. Next, we will have a panel discussion with the coordinators of the US partner universities who will discuss new educational initiatives and development utilizing COIL education and the future of collaboration to talk about the fruits of learning by the students as seen from each of the universities. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
星野先生、ありがとうございます。それでは、
Thank you.
はい、それでは、お待たせいたしました。今からはですね、
Thank you for waiting. Now we would like to start the panel discussion. So, making use of the COIL education, how can we bring in new initiatives and collaborate further in the future? That's what we would like to discuss. And again, Yamagishi would be the facilitator. We have 6 professors and lecturers from us, and one of them would be joining us remote. And in the framework of the NU-COIL, well, even before the COIL classes had started, we had been asking for support for these lecturers and professors to be coordinators. And they have been contributing a lot in the past 5 years for the penetration and enhancement of the COIL education. I have prepared actually around 5 questions. And first of all, I would like to ask each of you to make a self-introduction, including your name and affiliation, and about your research topic, perhaps, and your expertise. And also, what was most impressive in the past 5 years in the COIL education for you, and why was that? That's what we would like to hear from you, like in around, if you could wrap it in 2 minutes, that would be very helpful. And starting from my left, I would like to ask from lecturer Shimomura, Ms. Shimomura, and end with Ms. Fujimoto. So Shimomura sensei, over to you. I am from Arizona State University. My name is Tomoko Shimomura. I teach Japanese. And I've been teaching business Japanese to these junior students. And what was most impressive was that in the autumn semester, when we had the COIL education, this was with Fujikake sensei, and under the request of Aichi Prefecture government, we planned out a trip for US high school students. That was the project. And then we were trying to find out what attracts high school students, and we carried out a questionnaire survey to high school students and close to Phoenix area. And we had around 170 US high school students to answer the questionnaire. And given the results, the students came up with topics for the trip. And again, they carried out another set of questionnaire survey. And then using Zoom, they had an online one-on-one or interview with the high school students to decide where the students should be traveling. And following the request of the Aichi government, prefecture government, and thanks to the advice from Orange partner Sato-san, and also listening to the voices of the high school students, the university students had to come up with an organized trip plan. And they were able to also experience what business would be like in the future. Thank you. And let's move on to Ms. Meguro. I teach Japanese. I am a lecturer at Dickinson College. My name is Akiko Meguro. And we have the first year fresh graduate, a freshman to senior students. And we have a regular language exchange with the Japanese university students. And they had a good experience to have inter-exchange with students that are speaking their mother tongue. And from around 3 to 5 times in a semester, within the Nanzan University English courses, that means for us it was 7:30, 8:30 nighttime, but we started having inter-exchange with Skype, and from 2020 we had a Zoom, and we also had a one-on-one student exchange. And that means for the first 25 minutes, Japanese would be used, and the latter 25 minutes, English would be used. And this is how the students carried out conversations under different topics. And we had from first year to fourth year university students, and that means different target topics were given, and students asked questions or carried out interviews, and that's how they also enjoyed a developed dialogue. And one example is, for example, a freshman would talk about their families or what was the most impressive in their past private trips. And a junior student would make speeches about or conduct interviews about Japanese sports, culture. And in English classes, Japanese students conducted interviews to our students in Dickinson, and we really had good feedback from the students, because in academic year 2020 and 21, a lot of students had to stay at home, and yet these programs were very impressive to the students. And now let's move to Ms. Mori. I teach at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. My name is Yoshiko Mori. And in 2019, as Ms. Meguro mentioned, we started from level 1 up to level 4 Japanese courses, and we joined the Nanzan COIL. And it was our first time to join that, and we had no idea what kind of style would be most effective. And at the same time, we wanted to try many things. That's why we decided to give different topics to different students. For level 1, we asked students, we asked them to exchange emails with students at Nanzan University studying foreign language. And for intermediate and advanced course Japanese students, we asked them to use social media to have exchange with Japanese students. And for the higher advanced class courses students, we asked them to have interaction with the business admin course students in Nanzan. and emails were exchanged both in Japanese and in English. And because our students had very limited capabilities in Japanese, I believe that the conversation was very limited. But it was a very good opportunity for them to have an actual communication with a language that they just started learning. And they also introduced about their families, about their universities, and on social media, and then they put likes to each other. And that was very highly received by students. That's what we found out. And for advanced course students in US, they had an exchange activity in Japanese. They had a joint research with business admin students, and they had to talk about gender issues at workplace. They were split into groups and they had different subtopics. Some groups did well, some didn't. And I would like to discuss later about the problems. This had to be carried out in Japanese, and that was a very tough thing for our students in the US. Thank you. And now we would like to move to Ms. Kuwahara. Interpreter speaking, there is no audio. Apologies, my microphone was off. I am from Northern Kentucky University, and US, Japanese, and East Asia pop culture is what I teach. My name is Yasue Kuwahara, and with Professor Potter for the 3 years, I have been engaged in COIL. For the first 2 years, my international popular culture class students and Professor Potter's students. And on the 3rd year, with the Japanese pop culture students and Professor Potter's classes, we had exchange. And at first, we didn't know well about COIL, and that is why we had our students to use the Canvas discussion board to make self-introduction in Japanese. But then, first, the self-introductions were written in Japanese, and then it said, I like dandelion flowers. But then it seemed some students didn't know well about the rule. And then that's why I told Professor Potter about it. And then I found out that it was not students of Nanzan University, but students of my university who didn't know well about the rules. And they were so happy, so they just started off making self-introduction in Japanese, although the rule was to make self-introduction in English. And then the following year, there was this US presidential elections, and we knew that Professor Potter's students were highly interested in politics. And that is why we got our students to find out how Japanese students were interested about the politics in US. And we also had some Zoom classes together. And Professor Potter's students are pretty much global and international. So our students were very much having a good impact from them.
Thank you very much. Now let's have Hugenboom. So I am from University of Maryland, Baltimore County. My name is Tomoko Hugenboom. So I would like to take this opportunity to talk about the 11 COIL courses that we had. And of that, I think the most impressive was the PBS COIL. Why? It's because the project by the students were not limited to the classroom. It actually went out to the outside the classroom, so the companies actually adopted. I don't think they're going to actually adopt the project itself, but they could take hints from that, and it gave an impact on the actual society and about the social living, and it was an education experience for them that they could create an impact on society, and that was, I think, beneficial to the students. What we did last year, it was in the fall. We worked with JTB and Koseikan, and also with the central, and there is going to be a course that is happening. There is the anime study tour, and there is going to be a field trip. So there was the plan. We at the universities. And of course, the target was going to be university students in the USA. So there was questionnaires conducted for that. And I think it was a very good learning opportunity for the students. And this fall, we worked with Brother Sales, and this was about SDG. How can we include products of brothers so that it is incorporated into the SDG? So this was also very constructive. It was also very abstract. So I think it was quite challenging to the students, but working with, of course, the support of Professor Yamagishi, we were able to successfully complete this project. Thank you very much. Can we have Ms. Nishio, please? I am teaching Japanese at University of North Georgia. My name is Tomoe Nishio. One of the impressions I had was the mobility type basic coil project. Now, as Ms. Hoshino had just addressed, maybe I am going to repeat myself a little bit, but in COVID, what we did as it is supposed to be is something that we did in 2019. But since then, everything has turned online. And now we are able to resume everything on the real environment from next month. So this is a short-term studying abroad program that also where staff from the North Georgia associate the students. So the theme is comparison between the Japanese and USA universities. So before this studying abroad, they would have about 6 weeks online classes, and there's discussions on various topics. And once we Nanzan students come to North Georgia, there's a lot of joint classes and many activities that is done together. So final activity or output is all of the groups would create a video on various topics and make presentations. So before studying abroad, having this pre-discussions online helps the students to feel a lot more secure and safe about going abroad. And I'm very looking forward to resuming this project from next month. Thank you very much. So lastly, we have from New York, Ms. Fujimoto. So hello, I'm from Queens College, the City University of New York. I'm the director of Japanese studies. So we have about advanced Japanese and also about Japanese culture. And we had introduced COIL program in that. We had Nanzan and Queens College create groups, and we spent about 6-7 weeks on a certain theme, and we would conduct questionnaires or interviews to collect the data and do a presentation as a final output. So something that is memorable for me is, I think it was in 2020, when we had a Japanese class in the level 3. There was the state of emergency in university where there was in New York where there was a lockdown, and everything has shifted to online. And students, of course, and also the university staff members were all feeling very uncertain, and we were wondering whether this COIL project is going to be successful or not. However, the students encouraged us, saying that this is the only way that we can communicate with Japanese students, and this online project was very meaningful and helpful for them. So I felt that even in a state of emergency, COIL can produce results. Another benefit I saw about the COIL program is that, and they tell me many times, be able to communicate in a language that they are learning, and to be able to communicate with somebody online using that language was also very inspiring for the students. Also, they talked about gender, about music, about any other topic that they had come up with. There was certain interviews, they used Google Form, they used Zoom. There was a lot of tools that they had utilized in order to do their activities. And I think this was also beneficial for the students. Thank you, Fujimoto-san. So thank you for all of your introductions. And you all talked about how the COIL education had an impact on the students and how these COIL courses had a good impact on the education itself. So maybe you can address that point a little bit more. If you have any feedbacks from the students, maybe you can share that with us. So Shimomura-san, can you start? So in the business Japanese class, we had 4 PBL COIL sessions, and some of the feedback we got from the students I have here with me, so I will share that. Through the COIL project, first, I felt that my Japanese capabilities increased, and also I was more confident speaking Japanese. So there was this response was not just one, but from many. So every week they would talk online about the travel plans on Zoom. And first, they were very uncertain whether they would be able to probably describe their ideas in Japanese to the audience. And there weren't many students who had such meaningful discussions in Japanese before. So I think that was where all of these uncertainties came from. However, the Nanzan universities very much encouraged the students to speak in Japanese. And so that had helped them to express their opinions in Japanese. Group members, if they listen to what you have to say, and then from there, that would build into a discussion. By repeating this kind of nature of meetings, they feel that they could contribute towards the discussion and towards the conversations, which was very fulfilling to all of the students. And this had also built their confidence towards speaking Japanese. Also, in planning the traveling in IT, there was a lot of studying to do about the attractions of IT, the history of IT, and some of the tourist attractions. So there was a lot of learning done about IT prefecture. And by learning about IT prefecture, that was also a learning about Japanese culture. And in my business Japanese class, the students will come to Nanzan from this spring, and they will actually go to all of the places that they had included in their travel itinerary, which I'm sure they are very much looking forward to. Thank you very much. Okay, Meguro-san, please. So from myself, about the impact of the education, I have 2 feedbacks from the students. One is from a freshman. So this person studied Japanese only for 5 weeks and then started this exchange. And I think it was very tough for the person, but gave me this feedback. I really enjoyed the exchange. It was fun. It put me out of my comfort zone. And I thought my Japanese was terrible, but my partner understood what I was saying in Japanese, and I was very surprised. Once it was an English lesson, it was easy for me, but then the partner I understood it was very tough for that person to speak Japanese, which was very relatable. And I think it was a very good experience for me.
And let me share with you another feedback from a junior student. And I think the exchange study is really helpful. And at first I was really nervous and freaking out. But through the exchange activities, I got used to it every time. And I knew that every time my skills in Japanese would be better than the previous session. And in the US, I seldom have a chance to speak in Japanese with Japanese students of my age. So it was really interesting to get to know about the culture of people of my same generation. And I was able to say that I felt that my partner and I were able to help each other. My partner helped me in coming up with Japanese composition, and I was able to also provide English advice. And through these activities, we know that the exchange initiatives will help us not only to boost up our skills in the classes, but we also get to have opportunities to get to know about each other's culture, get to know the commonalities and differences. And by helping with each other, we were also able to nurture a sense of friendship. And every year, we continue to communicate even after the exchange initiatives, and I'm very happy about it. Thank you. And as our Vice President, Mr. Hoshino mentioned, we have NU-COIL, which is in basic, academic, and PBL. They are in 3 layers. And what we heard from you was the basic COIL. So having the language exchange between students in Japan learning English and students in the US learning Japanese. And I think this, has there been any other learnings or takeaways for students learning Japanese in the US through these initiatives? Well, for beginners, I think the sense of happiness was the biggest thing. And the more advanced they become in their Japanese skills, they have this dilemma that they're not being able to communicate as they want to. But for the level 1 students and those students who just started studying Japanese, usually on their 2nd week, they start to do this exchange. And I think it was very helpful, especially for the beginner students of Japanese language. Thank you. And as Ms. Hu Renbu mentioned, not just only focusing on the language side, but we got to hear about the impact of the PBL COIL side. And I think the topic raised from the private sector was pretty much tough, and students had to go through discussions in English. Any lessons learned or any feedback from students? If so, please share that with us. I should say that, of course, students' level vary. Some are having business Japanese courses, some were just starting learning Japanese. To have communication with students at Nanzan, just in Japanese, some students were able to do that, but some students had to mix up English. And in any sense, as mentioned earlier, students were able to find out what they spoke was understood by the counterpart, and they were also able to understand what the Japanese counterpart was saying. And some students didn't know what the expectation from the private sector was in the theme, and they tried to explore what they were asked to do. And at the end, they were able to come up with something tangible, and they had this sense of accomplishment. That's what I heard. And Ms. Kuwahara, with your students, you had the exchange with Professor Potter's students. Other than language aspects, had there been any lessons learned among the students or any feedback from them? Yes, as I also covered earlier, in northern Kentucky, it's close to Cincinnati city, yet it's a very conservative area. 90% are white people, and students who grew up in that kind of environment found it very different. Some students were the first generation students having higher education or tertiary education among their family members. So they never had an opportunity to be exposed to other culture, and they didn't have any interest in Japanese, but they just happened to take the Japanese pop culture class. And then suddenly here came myself saying, well, we're going to have this kind of exchange activities. And they were surprised. But then when they started being engaged, they started to find that it was interesting, and they liked having exchange activities with students in Japan. And also students from Asia, students from Nanzan, helped them give the opportunity to be exposed. So at first they were like shocked, what are we going to do? But then after the courses, they said they found it interesting. That's good to know. Actually, we also had an exchange with students learning American government studies, and those people were super conservative. They didn't have even opportunity to have conversation with outside students in the past. We had around 100-minute session, and some students were interested to Japanese culture, and that is definitely also an advantage. But I'm trying to tell you that the COIL study also helped students who had no interest in Japanese culture in the past to have a big takeaway too. That's also what I personally felt. I wanted to ask more, just one more word from my end. And we just dared to speak about culture, so I just wanted to cut in and add a comment here. Students who are studying Japanese language found out that through the group discussions under the project, they found out that the silence that the Japanese students have and the silence that the US students have were different, and they were a bit worried. Well, because in the US, they believe that silence is not good. So they try to make sure that there wouldn't be any silence. But on the other hand, Japanese students will just only answer yes and no other explanation. So some American students were having this dilemma, they didn't know what to do. And also to getting to know about the differences of what silence means was something important for them. Thank you. We would like to get to hear more from you, but we have to cover all the questions. So let me just jump on to the third question. So what was difficult in COIL? We got to hear some already, but if there has been any feedback from the students, I would like to ask Ms. Fujimoto first from New York. Yes, I should say that the first pain point or the first barrier that the students confronted was, of course, not just only the schedule and the timing. That's, well, one thing. We had to think about the time differences. That's one thing. And second, the differences of culture. Let's say punctuality between US students and students in Japan were different, and the differences of what silence means. On top of that, some Japanese students are enthusiastic, but that wouldn't appear in the same way in the eyes of American students. And that's what we've heard. And actually, I also received questions from students. And we found out that it's difficult for Japanese students to really start off a conversation. And that is why I told my students in the US that culture is different. So why don't we, American students, take the leadership and see how things would be like? That's the kind of advice and guidance I had to give to my students. And some US students will drop out, and that's not an uncommon case, I would say, here in the US. Then once we form a group under the full framework, and then we start to see students drop out, we wouldn't be able to complete the project. And that's what we also found out. So we try to avoid as much as possible one-on-one. And for less proactive students, we intentionally teamed up with students that are pretty much invigorous. That's what we intentionally did. And this semester, they had, well, we have students with different background, and we also have visually impaired students and students with some difficulties for social communication. And one of the students with some special needs attended, but found out difficulties with the actual communication. And that is why I served as the mediator between the Japanese student and the student here in the US with special needs. But we want to improve this and to be able to respond to students with different needs and to find out what kind of support we should be giving. And that's also something that I would like to take as a challenge. Thank you. Ms. Mori, please. What I was thinking actually is overlapping with what Ms. Fujimoto said. One issue of scheduling. The academic calendar between Georgetown and Nanzan is different. So during the autumn semester, we can do it, but during spring semester, it's difficult because Nanzan starts classes in end of April, but we don't have classes anymore. I teach spring semester business Japanese classes, but the timing is different. And another thing is the time differences. And we tell them to have a face-to-face meeting online, but they have some difficulties.
So that's where I think the challenge lies. The second one is the concept of COIL is good, cultural exchange is good, but if it's on a volunteering base, then they don't really get active. It has to be something compulsory that is going to affect their marks and their actual credits. So this is the case in both the Japanese side and the USA side. The third is about language skills. So you talked about the advanced level in Georgetown and talking in Japanese about the social issues in the local community to have that project with the Japanese students. Now, maybe if you have people from the British and the American English faculty, then and they know how difficult it is to talk in a foreign language, then it's okay. But then you do get students who has never thought about going overseas, who hasn't been so internationalized. And I think maybe you have people like that in Nanzan as well. And of course, on our side, we have a lot of those students. Many of them did not have the Japanese language skills required, and that was very tough for them. And they would use line or mail to communicate. But in Japanese, the Japanese students, line is something that if you get a message, you have to feedback immediately, but it's too long and it's time consuming. And if it's busy, then it takes a week or two before they reply. And some say they've been ignored or they're not ignored. So all of this kind of dispute happens among the students. So when we talk about this language, so I think it is also about a problem of language skills. There is people who need to, of course, who are learning, they need to work on that, but also the native speaker needs to be lenient on the other side. Thank you. And Ms. Kawara? So I think some of the challenges that the study had, that the students had experienced is very close to what Ms. Fujimoto was saying. There is the timing issue. So there is the quarters of Nanzan, and we have our semesters, and those timings do not change, and it's very difficult to coordinate. There's the time difference. There's 14 hours time difference between us and Japan. And with the Japanese popular culture class students, they want to speak with Japanese students, but it was very difficult. They can't get up so early in the morning and all this, and that time difference had been a problem. We did have one successful session, and they really enjoyed it. Another point is, I think from the student side, is this change in culture, difference in culture. We did some questionnaires, and when we were thinking about the questions of the questionnaires, of course, students think of that in English, and whether that question probably conveys to the Japanese students, because there is a bit of nuance that is different. If you can just straight away put it into English and show it to the Japanese student, you don't get the response that you actually wanted. And I think it's vice versa in the Nanzan side. So Nanzan creates this questionnaire and gives out the questions, and the US students don't understand what they are trying to ask. Another point, this is point 3, a bit different, but as we have this symposium, let me talk about some of the experiences that we had in the past 5 years. So unfortunately, we only had one course where we had this exchange. The reason for this is that when COIL started, Japanese was a minor course. And then after that, it became a major course, and the number of students increased, the number of lecturers increased. However, the number of faculty of the staff was only 1. So everybody was in total chaos, and we were totally out of control. So that was one of the reasons why we couldn't do what we really wanted to. So I regret that very much so. And I want to fix that as we move forward. So I think the only solution we probably have is to increase headcount. But thank you very much for your feedback. So, of course, I think students need to be properly graded, and that this activity actually consists of a certain grade or credit within their course. And you need to tell that to the students for them to be more motivated. And I think it also makes adjustments among the students. And when there is an issue, if you have any solutions that you have come up with, maybe you can share that experience with us. Mori-san, please. I'm sorry, this is the interpreter speaking. I cannot hear what she's saying. So we were using a canvas. So the Nanzan students had never used the canvas before. And you need to upload your topics onto Canvas, otherwise it's not evaluated. And they actually didn't know how to do it, and they were not lazy or anything. So we had to show them how it was done, and we gave them the instructions of how to upload it to Canvas. So even if you're using the same Canvas, Georgetown uses a different Canvas, COIL has a different Canvas. So this also created some hassles. And there were some different functions that were able to be used in one, but not in the other. And some of this was problems. Maybe there should be some kind of an easier tool that we could use for COIL. So it doesn't have to be Canvas. Maybe it can be Google Dot or, and then there's something to do with privacy as well, but I can see where the challenge lies. Thank you very much. Other comments or feedback? Shimura-san, please. So in the PDL COIL, the first year we did it, in my business Japanese language course, the students communicated in Japanese fully with the Nanzan students. Now, they think that they are speaking in Japanese, so the Nanzan students will understand everything they say, which is not the case. And the Japanese students did not understand what they were saying, and the Nanzan students sometimes speak in English, but also the same thing, there is a gap in communication. Now, this gap in communication can cause a lack of response, which leads to complaints. And then in the second year, so even if you are speaking in Japanese, it is different. It is a different question whether they understand it or not. So keep on explaining multiple times so that you can make sure that person understands. So that has been one advice that we gave, and it did lead to smoother communication. So I think that is something that they can use maybe as they go into business. And I hope that this experience will help them in the future. Thank you for your comment. Any other comment? Ayama-san, please. So 25 to 30% of our course comes from COIL. And then there is also a further breakdown. And if you come up with an outline, then it's how many percent. So all of this is very defined in detail. The way Nanzan does it is different, and the way we evaluate it is different, or the percentage is different. And this is all added into the 100%. Then the students are aware that it does have an effect on their marks. So I think that was also a constructive way of doing it. Thank you for your comment. So maybe before, what we did was to have a session, maybe about an hour before we started COIL. So if they don't know about many of the issues that can happen, and the thing is, if there is a problem, they always blame the teachers. So they have to solve problems when it happens, and you need to tell that to the students even before they start the COIL program. Some of the potential problems that may arise in this cultural communications, and for them to think about that, and that is part of the program. And I think you need to just inform that to the students, because I tell them that COIL is going to create problems, it's going to fail, and it's not going to be just full of fun. And I tell this to my students over and over again. And I think that is what Ms. Shimomura just had said. And all of this is something that they need to deal with once they go out into the real world. So that's also something we need to tell them. Thank you very much. Next, we talked about the student perspective, and it was focusing on the students, but maybe we can talk from the lecturer side or from the staff side of what we have actually learned through these COIL programs, or maybe you might have regretted something, you're sorry about something, maybe you can talk about how that can impact the COIL programs. So maybe, can you start?
Thank you very much for this tough topic for me to answer. I know a lot about others people. It's difficult to express about myself there, but there are 2 points here. One is during the planning stage, and when we implemented the COIL and up to the end, it's not it was only myself, but other faculty members had to be involved. So I just can't implement my own idea, but I had to learn about other ideas and perspectives, and that is something I learned. If I do this alone, sometimes I just get stuck and I don't know what to do. But the fact that I was able to consult with other faculty members was really something that I could rely on. And the other point, as Professor Yamagishi said, it depends on how much background information we should give to the students in advance. And I, as much as possible, hand it over to the students and I let them decide and solve on their own. But perhaps when we think about the common possible problems that could happen, I hadn't told that to my students, and perhaps I should have told that to them in advance. At least, so we should be clear with to which extent we should give the basic pre-information to the students. Thank you. Ms. Nishio, please. From my end, it's not rather the impact I personally had, but to talk about the entire North Georgia College faculty members. Well, we don't have any fixed template, so we were able to do this in a very flexible manner. And one of the means used to achieve the academic purpose is COIL. And COIL has been highly received, and we know that the ongoing rate is very high. People continue to use this. And at first, we started from trial and error. That's how a lot of faculty members started off. But once we know how to make use of the COIL framework through improvements, and once we start to build trust with the counterpart university lecturers and professors, we started to find out that the satisfaction level of the students become higher, and that also encourages our faculty members to continue to implement COIL in the following academic year. Another thing I should mention is that with the pandemic, well, now it's common to have online classes today, but I should say thanks to or due to the COVID pandemic, the digital literacy of the faculty members have drastically improved. Compared to the pre-COVID times, we can now intentionally use other means, even online studying, as a way to enhance the education. And we are less reluctant to use online activities. Thank you. Myself too, implementing COIL, I found out that I don't have so much communication skills as I thought I would, because when I set up things and when I see doing things, well, I really have to have a close communication with the counterpart university lecturer. And I found out once that the instructions I gave to my students and with the students that received instruction from the other university was completely different, and we had some chaos there. And we tell our students, well, through COIL, you can get to enhance your communication skills. And in fact, I found out that I was the one not having communication skills. But anyway, has there been any ideas? Well, even myself, for the first time, I started to use rubric through the COIL scheme. But personally, as an academic member or as a researcher, has there been any things that you have found out through COIL? I really was resonating with what you said. And I really find out each faculty member is unique. And it really depends on how much you can build a good relationship with the faculty member of the counterpart university. And when we also carried out the program, when we did the social media activity, really worked well. And it just happened to be that we found out that sometimes it's good that we take leadership. And then the faculty member at Nanzan was really collaborative, and that's why it worked well. But there are also times that both faculty members were like, what should we do? What should we do? Because when in fact it was the first time for us to implement COIL, it was difficult. So it really depends on the attributes or character of the counterpart university lecturer. And just for once, I had a very close discussion with the lecturer on the counterpart university because I needed to know more about that person. Well, perhaps this is not necessarily limited to COIL, but I think after all, we are human beings, so it depends on how much we can get along with. Sometimes it's like being a married couple, and it could be better to have different dynamics between the faculty members of both universities. That makes it work well. Ms. Hugenboom, now you took the leadership because you looked at me and now I'm asking you to share with us. Well, yes, we have to carry out communication with various faculty members, and depending on the pair, sometimes I take the leadership, sometimes I ask the counterpart university lecturer to take the lead. And when they take the lead, it's easy for me, but at the same time, I feel sorry for them. And there are also times that I have to take leadership, and then there are times I question myself, why is it me doing this? So it depends on how the counterpart university faculty member reacts. And when I knew that I take the leadership and that person relies on me, I felt good. I mean, it's really a repeated communication. Sometimes you do something and it doesn't work and it ends. So you have to try to see what's the best way. Ms. Nishio, any comments from you? If you have something to add on? Yes, I've been pairing with different faculty members, and I think I was lucky because they all allowed me to take the leadership, so I was able to be flexibly doing many things. And before we ask our students to do communication, I really found out that we, faculty members, really have to have a good communication skills. And with Ms. Fujikake, we've been having so many meetings, even this month. We don't know how many we have already met, how many times we have met. And especially when it comes to the mobility of study abroad, we really have to have closer communication. So I should say, to build a good relationship with the counterpart university faculty member, that's one thing. And sometimes we're human beings, so it really depends on whether we can get along well or not. But there are also areas that we can arrange or do something on our side. Ms. Fujimoto, are there any comments from you? It could be your personal views, or at Queen's College, any comments that you have collectively from the faculty members' side. Please share that with us. Well, at Queen's College, well, in line with the NU-COIL, we came up with this Queen's College COIL Fellow. And we have a person called Mr. Shiro. He's taking the leadership. So it's not just only Japanese, but we have economies, politics, faculty members from these field and domain to get together, and then we started from like an ice-breaking topic, and at least we have a monthly chat and meeting to have different lecturers or professors to try how it works. That's what we are doing now through this fellowship we have. And out of 48 courses that we have, well, this year's COIL Fellows would soon be graduating, and we are also opening, we have open posts for next year's COIL Fellow, and that's how we continuously grow our human resources here at Queen's College. And this has to do with the next question, and I also visited Queen's College.
So as I talk with people in the Queen's College, there are the COIL fellows, there are web pages, and there are those who make a lot of effort. And then there is also those with a fellowship. So I think the impression that I got is it's very much an organization-driven initiative. Thank you very much. Final question about the future of COIL. Maybe we can talk about that. Fujimoto-san, maybe you can start. So maybe it could be your personal opinion, or maybe as behalf of your organization, any prospects about how COIL will be in the future. It could be something about the relationship with Nanzan University. If you could all spend about 2 minutes each on this topic. So Ms. Fujimoto, can you start? So we have been working with COIL for about 5 years now, and there were questionnaires, there were interviews to the students, and then we also asked them whether they want to join another project in the future. And 37.5% said yes. They definitely want to. 50% said if there is, they are interested. So they overall, I think the feedback is positive, and they were quite happy with the COIL project. So I hope that in our faculty, we can continue with this COIL program. Now, but we don't want to really just stay in the Japanese studies. I am actually more on Asia research. So I also want to bring in some of the lecturers from the Asian studies side and to propose whether they would want to join into the COIL programs. Other than that, thanks to Queen's College, we will have another full-time teacher coming in, and this it's a guy, and he is very interested in COIL. So he's more on the literature side, but then we will have a COIL project on literature, and maybe we can do that with Nanzan University, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Thank you very much. So please tell Kuwahara-san, Ms. Kuwahara, how you can increase Japanese teachers in your university. So Shimomura-san? So I have been talking a lot with Ms. Fujikake about the problems that could rise from COIL, and we are trying to improve those issues to better the COIL program. Now, as we were able to use Zoom, there is that time difference, but I think it has promoted the conversations among the students. How we can utilize Zoom in the future so that we can make it more effective and to create a more effective COIL. That is one of the things I am thinking about. Now at ASU, COIL is really the authentic communication that they can do with Japanese students. Now, in terms of PBL COIL, there is a business project, and it is a simulation, but it also creates a connection to the student with the Japanese society and gives them an option to practice what it would be like to have conduct business in Japan. So I hope that we can continue these opportunities as we move into the future. And although the others who are in charge of Japanese is very much positive about the COIL programs. So we would like to start. Thank you. Now, Ms. Meguro. So we have our Japanese class, and we have Pierre-san's English class at Pierre-san. So we do want to continue this initiative with Nanzan. Now, up to now, we were doing these classes in the Japanese class times, and we didn't know what the Japanese students were going to be talking about. And we didn't know also what was going to be talked about in the English classes as well. So maybe from next year, we can have some kind of a common video that we can see beforehand, and then do some discussions on that, or read some material beforehand, and then build on that in the discussions. I think that could be a possibility in the future. Thank you. Ms. Mori? So from me, I want to talk about the Director of Japanese Language Program. So I think this is a very good opportunity, COIL, as an exchange in languages, and we would want to continue with it. And personally, I don't want to just only do this in Japanese. There needs to be both English and Japanese because so that we can both share our challenges and also our advantages. For example, going to some Japanese people who has never thought about going to the United States, those people may have an opportunity to use English or to express themselves in English in some way in the future. And then that to be able to experience the difficulty of trying to do that. And also about thinking about what the language ability of the counterpart is, and then to assess that and to try and communicate at that level so that you can communicate together. That is also very important. And this can happen for both Japanese side and the English side. So the English students also need to work on that. And if we can create that kind of an environment, I think it will be able to improve the communication skills, not just about the language skills. If they could identify the level of the counterpart and try and tailor their communication towards that person, I think that's going to be important. Thank you. Ms. Kuwara, please. Now, in Mr. Hoshino's presentation, you talked about the online exchange programs among the students and that there was very positive impact. And then the students are very interested, however, we could not make full use of that opportunity. But I think we must try again from step one. And when we think about that, of course, it might be difficult to increase the number of Japanese teachers, but I think it's all matter of communication. So when we talk about international education, we need to revisit how COIL should be in our courses and to redefine how COIL should be used. So whether it be in Japanese or in other courses. Another point is you talked about how well the staff members fit each other. And of course, I know Professor Potter very well, and it's like working with a friend, which made things very easy for me, but I hope that I will be able to have an opportunity to talk with other members of Nanzan University who is interested in pop culture. And I am also very much into diversity, inclusion. So if anybody is interested in that, please work with me so that we can develop other programs using COIL. Thank you very much. And also Ms. Hugenboom. So our university, there are also many students who want to study abroad but do not. This is because of their curriculum. It is absolutely full, and they cannot just stop their semester without the classes, or economically they cannot afford to study abroad. So we do have students who have not the resources to do that. So in this one class of about 25, maybe all of the students, we want to, we can't totally immerse them into that culture, but at least through communication, they will be able to learn the cultures. And I think that's very beneficial to the students. Now, when we think about this, in the culture class, there are students who have no Japanese background. So they learn about the Japanese culture, but they sometimes don't understand why they need to talk with Japanese people, and they can all just speak into English. But I think that was quite refreshing to me that some students may think this way, but I do want to continue with COIL. Also within campus, when we look at it in a very wide perspective, it's not just about Japanese related issues. There are freshman seminars or so that we can have collaborations with the Nanzan University. So we want to broaden the scope of the activities within campus. So it could be in humanities or in other faculties, but I hope that they will adopt COIL in their classes as well.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Nishio, well, the 5 years with COIL, most of the time we were facing the COVID pandemic. And then I should say the online studying became much common. And we also heard some cases that COIL was implemented as an alternative of face-to-face education. But when we think of what COIL should be like and how COIL should be like, it's not that COIL is positioned as an alternative of a face-to-face class. Now, with the trend of globalization, many things can be achieved remote. But when we think of making things to be much smoother, of course, we have to have communication skills, online communication skills, as well as to understand about other cultures. Now, face-to-face communication skills and online communication skills are different. That is what we all know. And when we say online or remote, it includes emails, video conferences, other means, and there are different modalities. And I should say that COIL helps us nurture these skills that we need to communicate with each other online. And at North Georgia, University of North Georgia, we want to continuously grow global and human resources, and that is why our intention is to continue implementing COIL. And that means we will continue to roll out and share the COIL method, not just only in the campus, but we can also refer to counterpart university lecturers to those faculty members that are interested in COIL. And we also want to further develop the structure internally. As you mentioned, Ms. Nishio, yes, I believe that digital literacy is improving among faculty members, but people are getting tired with the COVID, and people are also wanting to get back to face-to-face. And some people tend to shy away from COIL because COIL is online. But we should understand that COIL and ordinary online classes are different. And we should make a propaganda saying that COIL is not just online, but is used for different purposes. And later, we will open the floor for questions and answers. And those joining us via Zoom, if you have any questions, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box. And while waiting for questions to be raised, I would like to take this opportunity to ask questions. So when we want to spread the COIL, well, one thing, of course, is to use monetary incentives, but if there would be any other good ideas or tips for us to encourage other people who are not interested in COIL to be attracted to it, that's what I would like to hear from you. And I'm definitely sure that other members joining this forum today are very much interested to hear that part. Ms. Meguro? Well, when we think of COIL or exchange programs, well, first thing first, many faculty members don't know what to do. That is why we should share best practices or case studies from COIL so that other lecturers and professors would be inspired and think, well, maybe I should try this. I think that's the biggest thing. Thank you. Other panelists? Any tips or ideas for us to roll this out? Well, we can't suddenly approach someone and say, are you interested in COIL? That wouldn't be nice, I think. That means in the campus, we have the hierarchy, but at department level, faculty level, college level, we should first of all have this known by the administrators. And then have this well recognized and find a way that COIL would be well understood. That's what we should be doing. That means we should have a good relationship with the administrator and share with them about COIL. In our case, at University of North Georgia, we had our media, the PR and team, to feature about our activities. And that's how we are trying to enhance the presence in the campus. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Well, I think Ms. Nishio's way is the orthodox way, but actually what I've been doing is to use my own personal network and pipeline to, I don't say force, but to promote this to others. But of course, we have to have some support system. That means we have to be able to share what we did. And of course, internationalization and inclusion is getting much important. We have to have versatile perspectives and put this at the front line. And that will make sure that other professors or lecturers will be definitely attracted and they have no other choice but to go for COIL. Okay, that's pretty aggressive, I'd say. Any other comments? And Nanzan University received subsidies, and that is why we were able to hire Ms. Fujikake. And we also, thanks to Ms. Fujikake, who has related Korean experience, we were able to have and make follow-ups. And well, it is a kind of time-consuming thing when we want to convince others. But we make sure that if there are any inquiries, questions, we always have a contact person. And in our case, it is Ms. Fujikake. And probably professors and lecturers here, when you have any, if you have a job title, official job title there, then it makes it easier for you to have the COIL being expanded. And without those, I think it's important, because if I'll be asked to do everything, to do the propaganda, to communicate about COIL, it's difficult. But now that we have Ms. Fujikake, we also have some other admin stuff, it's easier for me. Let me just wrap up this part. For students, I think COIL is something very fun and interesting. And what I'm trying to tell you is that it's very difficult to make an assessment for COIL courses. And we have to have 7 lessons or classes for 1 credit, 14 for 2 credits. And it's very difficult to assess the students from COIL. And when we think of measuring the sense of satisfaction, if we try to make this quantitatively, it could just end up saying, well, let's make fun. Some students thought they could do something, but they found out that that was difficult. But then they take new challenges after the COIL courses have ended. And I think that's one thing. So we shouldn't just consider COIL as a standalone course, because after all, we want COIL to be a tool for students to realize what they need to fill up as a gap. And COIL should be something that becomes a stepping stone for students to continuously learn more. But we also found out that time differences was a pain point for students. And we also found out from the students that when students go through projects, well, this is something I never thought of. Well, students exchange their Instagram account and they try to find out the personality or the character of their team members. And that's how they try to build teamwork, and they try to figure out who could be the key person to be the leader. And I found out that students themselves are trying to bring in very innovative ideas, and that's what I found it good. And students themselves found it very challenging. Sometimes they learned many lessons, and then they can come back again for COIL. Or there are also students who wanted to study abroad after COIL, but then they decided to go back to the COIL again. So I think COIL should be used as something for students to further grow. And the fact that we have a coordinator which allows people to be freely expressing themselves, that's something good. And we continuously look for your ongoing support. And we thank you for your endeavor for this achievement. And again, thank you very much for joining us, our valued panelists. And thank you, our participants, for joining us in this symposium. And we would like to hereby conclude session 1 of this international symposium. Thank you very much.